Hello students, and today we're going to look at operations with real numbers. So your learning objectives for this video is that you can find the sum of two numbers, the difference of two real numbers, the product, and of course the quotient of two real numbers. Basically, can you add, subtract, multiply, and divide real numbers? Now, we've been looking at integers probably since about 7th grade, so we're going to take a look at just plain numbers right now, just integers. So negative 12 plus 7, a lot of you, when you would do that, you would first figure out that 12 is a bigger number, so you got to subtract because they're different signs. So 12 minus 7, you would get 5. And since 12 was larger, you're going to keep his sign, so you got a negative 5. Not too hard, right? You've done this a while. It's probably become second nature for you. Negative 18 minus 2, so I'm losing more, so I'm going to stay negative, add my two signs together. If you remember, we got double negative. You get to change those both to positives. So 11 plus 4 is 15. So this comes in handy when you go to fraction mode. So what are you going to do when you have a fractions and adding and subtracting? Well, you got to find a common denominator if you do not have one already. Then you got to change the numerator to reflect your new denominator. So if I multiplied the denominator by 2, I got to multiply the numerator by 2 also. Then I got to add or subtract the numerators and keep the denominator the same. Let's try a couple problems. So I want to find the sum of 3/4 plus negative 5/6. So the very first thing, I don't have a common denominator. Notice how I have a 4 here and a 6 there. So I got to think, what number can 4 and 6 both go into and divide into? Well, 24 would work, but is there a number smaller? I think 12 will work. So I'm going to use 12 for my common denominator. Make sure I keep my signs here. Notice how I kept that negative there. What times 4 gave me 12? Well, 3. So if I multiplied the bottom by 3, I got to multiply the top by 3 as well. So 3 times 3, that's just plain old 9. 6, how did 6 become 12? 6 times 2 gave me 12. So I got to multiply the top by 2 as well. So 5 times 2 is 10. So now I have a common denominator. I've changed my numerators to reflect that new denominator. So now I need to add my numerators. So I have 9 plus a negative 10. So since they're opposite signs, I'm going to subtract the numbers. So 10 minus 9 is 1. 10's bigger. Absolute value has a bigger absolute value, so it's going to be a negative 1/12. What about subtraction? So I need to find the difference of negative 1/2 minus a negative 5/7. Negatives all around, right? Where is what could be my common denominator? What does 7 and 2 divide into? Well, it's got to be 14. I think that's the nicest number. So I'm going to put my negatives in here. There we go. What times 2 gave me 14? 7. So I got to multiply the top by 7 as well. So 1 times 7 is 7. 7 times 2 will give me 14. So I got to do that to the top as well. 5 times 2, well, that's 10. Now, I have a common denominator. Got to add my numerators, or subtract them in this case. Notice how I have a double negative. Going to make that positive. So now I have negative 7 plus 10. That is a positive 3/14 for my final answer. Multiplying and dividing. Now, multiplying and dividing is a lot easier. Personally, I think it is than adding and subtracting because it's really simple. If you have different signs, you get a negative. If you have the same sign, you get a positive. It's a lot easier, clear-cut information. So let's do these quick integer problems. Negative 12 times 7, well, that's negative 84. You do that on your calculator quick, 12 times 7, you'll get 84. I had to do it a little quick manual hand there. Negative 18 divided by negative 2, they're both negative, so I get a positive. So 18 divided by 2, that's 9. And then 3 times 5, well, that's just 15. That's a really easy one. Notice how I'm representing multiplication with just parentheses. We're going to use that a lot more common than this dot. We're going to use parentheses more for multiplication in Algebra 1, and you're furthering in your math career. Negative 28 divided by negative 7, well, they're both negative, so 28 divided by 7 is positive 4. Now, what do you do if you multiply? What are you going to do about those fractions? You're going to want to cross-cancel if you can. So if you get a 3 and a 12 across from one another diagonally, you can cancel those together. Then you're going to multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, and simplify if you need to. So let's take a look here. I'm first going to look for, can I cross-cancel anything? So does the 3 and the 12 have anything related? And does a 4 and a 5? Well, I know the 3 and the 12 does, because 3 can go into 12. So I'm going to divide a 3 out on both of these. 3 divided by 3, well, that's just 1. So there's technically a 1/4 there now. Negative 5. 12 divided by 3, that's 4. So I'm going to divide that by 3 as well. So now I'm just going to multiply my numerators, multiply my denominators. 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. And 4 times 4 is 16. So my final answer is negative 5/16. What about dividing by fractions? Okay, dividing, you kind of have to remember a little bit. First of all, you're going to find the reciprocal of a number. Now, you're probably remembering, what is the reciprocal? Basically, it's you flip the numbers around. So let's first look at reciprocals first, so we can make sure we know how to find them. So 5/8, its reciprocal would be 8/5. Not too bad, right? Just take the bottom number, make it the top number goes to the bottom. So 3/4 would be 4/3, and 7/24 for the reciprocal of that one. Then you're just going to keep, switch, flip. It's a nice little mantra that you're going to remember so you can divide fractions quicker, and you're going to remember the steps to do it. So what does keep, switch, flip mean? Keep, you're going to keep the first number, first fraction, alone. You're just going to leave it. It's going to stay the way you saw it. Switch, instead of you're going to be in division, you're going to switch to multiplication. And then you're going to flip the second fraction. AKA, you're going to find the reciprocal of that second fraction. Whoops. You're going to find the reciprocal of that second fraction. So let's take a look at an example of dividing by fractions. So I have 3/4 divided by a negative 5/6. Very first thing, I know my answer is going to be negative because I have different signs. So I can just forget about that until the end. So I got to do 3/4 divided by 5/6. So I'm going to keep, I'm going to switch, and I'm going to flip. So I'm going to keep the first number, switch to multiplication, and flip the second number. So find the reciprocal, 5/6, that is 6/5. So now, let's first go into multiplication mode. So I gotta see, can I go across and cross cancel? I'm not too sure. So you know what, I'm just gonna multiply across. So 3 times negative 6, that's negative 18. And 4 times 5, that's 20. But 18 and 20 are both even numbers, so I gotta be able to take a 2. So 18 divided by 2 and 20 divided by 2, so I'm gonna get negative 9 on top and a positive 10 on the bottom. Now, notice how the 4 and the 6 could have been canceled down. If you cross cancel to the furthest, you can. In the beginning, you do not need to simplify. If you don't cross cancel, always be aware there might be simplification needed at the end. And always, always, always simplify your fractions. And that's the end of this video. This is Miss Marsh signing off.